roller coasters are slowly dying out these days. With the modern development of iBox and Titan Track from coaster manufacturers like RMC and GCI, as well as the efficiency of steel coasters, we are beginning to see less and less full wooden roller coasters. Luckily for us coaster enthusiasts, there's still a very good collection of woodies out there. So in today's video, I'm going to be ranking each wooden roller coaster that I've ridden. Woodstock Express is a PTC family coaster. Opening with the park in 1972, it stands 38 feet tall and reaches speeds of 35 miles per hour. I haven't ridden this in a while, but I remember it being a very fun kiddie coaster. I can't really rank it any higher because after all, it's a kiddie coaster, and it doesn't really do much, but I hear people say that there are some slight pops of air throughout the ride. I can't find the stats for this ride, so compare it to Woodstock Express. However, it was built by the park's owner at the time, Ralph Stricker. It's a very smooth wooden roller coaster and it's really enjoyable. Given that it's a kiddie coaster, it doesn't really have any major forces, but it meanders around its layout and provides some cool scenery of the park. There isn't anything too special about this coaster, but it does do a great job serving its purpose of being a kid's coaster. Built by Den Corporation in 1990, it stands 90 feet tall and reaches speeds of 53 miles an hour. It's a rough ride, however there's some good airtime, especially on the second hill. The airtime was almost ejector, but the rough ride experience is hard to look past. Some of the turns pull G's, but most of the layout is boring and rough. I think it's a great ride for Kentucky Kingdom and holds a good place in the lineup, but I feel like it could use some retracking, which I'm sure they've already done and plan to do. But for now, it stands in 13th place. Built by PTC in 1964, it climbs to a height of 78 feet and reaches speeds of 40 miles an hour. Blue Streak gives some nice floater airtime throughout its layout. However, given its age comes roughness, but it's not as bad as Thunder Run. I also really love the color scheme because who doesn't love a blue wooden coaster? It's definitely looked over because of all the other rides at Cedar Point, but it's still somewhat enjoyable. Built by PTC and opening with the park in 1972 stands Racer. Reaching heights of 88 feet and speeds of 53 miles an hour, this ride is really fun. It can be a little bit rough, but in recent years, Kings Island has brought in Gravity Group to come and retrack the ride, which has made it a lot smoother. This ride has a lot of historical value as well. It was known to start the second golden age of coasters. It's a racing coaster, and that's why it takes up 2 spots on the list. I feel like the racing aspect adds to the experience of the ride. It can be really fun if you're with friends. Personally, I think that the red side is smoother, but I like the blue side better because you get some really nice views of Orion. Built by GCI, it has a 74-foot drop and reaches speeds of 48 miles an hour, and it traverses 2,118 feet of track. It came to the park in 2017 and is themed to Vikings. I went into it expecting it to be much like a tamer version of Mystic Timbers, and I was disappointed. The only airtime moment is on the drop in the back row, and the rest of the ride is boring and rough, not to mention the short layout. Even though it was built to be a family coaster, I think they could have gone a little more intense than they did. It's a good attraction, but they could have gotten better. Built by CCI in 1995, it stands 80 feet tall and reaches speeds of 48 miles an hour as it traverses 2,800 feet of track. This ride is super fun. It does have some rough patches that do take away from the overall experience, but if you can look past that, you'll find some amazing and surprising moments of laterals and airtime, especially towards the back of the train. It's a very scenic coaster as it passes over the lake about halfway through the ride. I do wish that it wasn't so rough, but other than that, it was a very enjoyable experience and I'm glad I got to ride it. Built by Gravity Group in 2019, it stands 47 feet tall and reaches speeds of 35 miles an hour. Kentucky Flyer features an extremely loose theme with signs in the queue and an airplane feature on the front of the train. The ride is very smooth and gave some surprising pops of airtime. I wasn't expecting too much because it looked like a family coaster, but it was really enjoyable. It's a great fit for the park and a great coaster in general. Built in 1975 by PTC, it stands 85 feet tall and reaches speeds of 56 miles an hour, traversing 3,368 feet of track. While only one side was running when I visited, I still enjoyed this ride a lot. It was surprisingly smooth and had some great pops of airtime. I like the scenery that it provides during its layout and how it's slightly different from the Racer at Kings Island, so it isn't a direct clone and has a different experience. Overall, it's a great coaster, and I would be sure to get a ride or two on it if I ever go back. Built by the owner of Stricker's Grove at the time, Ralph Stricker, stands Tornado. I can't find any stats for this one either, but it feels similar to Blue Streak or smaller. It's overall fairly smooth and well maintained, but there are a few valleys on the ride that are very rough, mainly just the first drop though. Besides the roughness, the ride is pretty boring until you finish the second turn. Then you rise up into what feels like a double up or double down, but when you drop off this element, it gives possibly the most insane ejector I've ever experienced. It's really fun since you only have a seatbelt and a buzz bar. It's actually so violent that it can be pretty painful. Then, there's one more pop before the brakes that gives you another dose of ejector airtime. It isn't as strong as the other, but it's still very intense. It's sad that you can only ride this ride for a few days out of the year. Built in-house by the park in 1979 stands the Beast. With a drop of 141 feet, reaching speeds of 64 miles an hour, and being the longest wooden roller coaster with 7,361 feet of track. This ride is incredible. It doesn't do much in terms of forces, however, just the pure history of this ride makes it one of the best. It isn't too rough after the gravity group retracking last year, and it's actually a very enjoyable ride now. The double helix is really intense and is by far my favorite element of the ride. Wait. You either love it for the history and the legendary ride it was for its time, or you see it as a boring, rough wooden coaster. But for me, I love this ride. Built by CCI and opening in 2000, it stands at a height of 99 feet with a drop of 113 feet and reaches speeds of 59 miles an hour on its 4,042 feet of track. This wooden coaster is the Lateral King. The second half is mainly spent being forced into the left side of the train because of the helix. The theme is very cool, especially with the bell. There are a couple of good airtime moments as well, but with the reoccurring theme throughout the video, wooden coasters are rough. And this one is one of those rides where it's gonna shake you up by the end. Not as much as Raven though. Overall, it's a great coaster and it's very enjoyable. Built by GCI in 2017, this ride stands 109 feet tall and reaches speeds of 53 miles an hour on its 3,265 feet of track. What an amazing coaster. From start to finish, this thing gives some amazing airtime as you travel back in the woods by Whitewater Canyon. This is probably the smoothest wooden coaster I've ridden. For Cedar Fair theming, I don't think the shed is disappointing at all. In fact, it's very cool in my opinion. I think the overall ride experience is one of the best, but definitely not the best wooden roller coaster. Built by Gravity Group in 2006, Voyage stands 159 feet tall, reaching speeds of 67 miles an hour, traversing 6,442 feet of track. This coaster is massive and is incredibly elite. From the moment you crest the lift hill, it is relentless, non-stop experience until you hit the brakes, which feels like forever. You experience insane, sustained floater airtime on the camelbacks, and then ejector pops and 90-degree bank turns in the spaghetti bowl, and all the way back to the station. It feels like it never stops and it takes a long time to process what just happened. There are a couple of moments where if you're on a wheel seat, it's kinda rough, but otherwise it's a smooth ride, and it doesn't take away at all from the experience. I can't describe how incredible this is, you have to go try it for yourself if you haven't already. Well, that pretty much brings us to the end of the video. Let me know some of your favorite wooden coasters down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed.